charger. Just gonna wait on everyone to come in. Hello, everyone. Go ahead and share the broadcast. Hi, Timothy. Go ahead and share the broadcast. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to my Facebook Live tonight. I'm so excited about tonight's broadcast. I do have a special guest tonight. I have a special guest tonight, and I'm so excited about it. So when you come on, share the broadcast, invite your friends. This is something that is really going to change your life. This is a story that is going to help you see your challenges differently. So I want you to go ahead and share the broadcast, share them with Pacific people, and also share them with everyone. Do a general share and share with Pacific people. So I cannot wait to share. I have a special guest tonight, a special treat. Her story is going to make you look at your issues, going to make you look at your situations far more different. And it is going to encourage you to face whatever has happened to you. It's going to encourage you to embrace whatever has happened to you and to lean and to clean and depend on God on how to get through it. So I am going to add her in. Monique, let me know when you hear me and when you see me on.
Hi.
Hi, Monique. Hello, hello. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here tonight. So, hello, everyone. I want you to go ahead and share the broadcast with other women that you know. You can do individual shares and you can do just a general share as well tonight. I have a special guest, my sister in the Lord. I call her, she doesn't know, my big sister and also my friend. I really, really, really think that her story is really going to shift all of our perspective. It's going to shift the way we see life. It's going to change the way we do life. It's going to change our appreciation level. It's going to change how we view our issues and the challenges that we face as well. Monique, hear me good? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you were breaking up just a little bit, but I can hear you.
Okay, no problem. I gotta move around just a little bit. Okay, let me know when you can hear me without the breaking up. Is this better?
Okay, keep talking just for a few.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, this is better. All right, guys. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my sister, Monique Thomas. I want you guys to go ahead and welcome her. Say hello so that she'll feel welcome.
Hi, everyone.
So tonight, guys, we're going to talk about what it means to overcome our challenges. We're going to talk about life after death. I have known Monique for about 8 years or so. Yeah, in the middle of getting to know her, in the middle of getting to know her family, something tragic happened in her family that I could not imagine myself going through. And I think that looking back, it's been about 8 years, has it, Monique?
No, actually, it's been 6. In October of this year, it'll be 7.
Got you. Okay, it's been about 6 years. And shortly after I met Monique and her family, Monique's husband passed away. And the woman that I see today, Monique, I just want you to know that the woman that I see today is far different than the woman that I witnessed 6 years ago when everything happened. The woman that I see today is not the same woman when I came over your house, I think the day after. She is totally different. She's stronger. She's more confident. She's more articulate. She is a totally different woman. And the world wants to know, how do we, Monique, as women, overcome challenges as you have? You know, you don't want to wish this situation on anyone, but when life comes,
right,
face those challenges. So if you can take us back, Monique, 6 years ago, take us back to that day and let us know what happened.
Sure, absolutely. So in October of 2011, my husband passed away of a heart attack. And so it was completely unexpected. He wasn't having like severe health issues or anything like that. We actually had went on a date night Sundays were our date nights, and we went on a date night. And when we got home, he had started complaining of chest pains. And so about 6 or 7 hours later, he passed away in the ER of South Suburban Hospital. Um, I would also add that about 4 months before Sean passed, my grandmother passed away. And then 3 months after he passed, we were informed that my aunt was diagnosed with renal cancer. So our family got hit with a lot in a very short period of time. So yeah, a little bit more about myself. I have four beautiful children who, of course, were a part of are a part of this story. And yeah, so was there anything else you wanted me to expound on, or
Yeah.
just like talk specifically about that day?
So yeah, specifically about that day, you did give us a summary on it as much as you want to talk about it. And then what we can do is just, so guys, Monique experienced a death in her family, the death of her husband, the sudden death, which she was not prepared for during the time, which she still is today. She was a working mom. She's a leader in her church. She's a friend. She was an aunt, and she had all these things going for herself. She had all of these obligations going on when this happened to her. And Monique's story is a testament that, when life hits us, how we arise to the occasion. So, yeah, if you can give us just a little bit more detail on what happened that day and just kind of take us through maybe the month-to-month process on how you began, or year to year, because it's been 6 years ago, process on the major things that contribute to how you begin to become better and how you begin to recover. No, Monique is not perfect, but Monique is still here. Monique is still a mom. Monique is still a
Yeah.
daughter. And Monique is still a leader at her local church. Monique is still an employee. So if you can give us a little bit more into that, and then just a little bit more detail on what that process looked like for
Sure, absolutely. So, of course, I would say the hospital issue was like, of course, traumatic. It was just me and him there because we didn't think it was going to be like this huge issue. So we actually ended up going to the hospital twice. The first time we went, he got checked out. They really didn't see anything wrong. They just told us, that he needed to follow up with his physician. We got home and the pain got worse, and he got like really bad pain in one of his legs. And so what that ended up being was that he had a artery that tore in his leg, which is what caused the heart attack. So as soon as the doctors originally did not know that it was a heart attack, they thought that he was having a seizure. And so with every single thing that they were telling me, of course, I'm texting our family,
you.
telling them, and when they said heart attack, of course, I'm very logical. And so I'm a person who plans, I try to plan down to the wire. So I started thinking about life, like, okay, if he has a heart attack, what's going to happen? I'm like planning, we're going to have to move our room downstairs. My mom was staying with me at the time, and I'm like, we'll put my mom upstairs. Like, I'm instantly thinking through
Right.
what's next, and the doctor, they asked me to step out of the room. The doctor came out and he was just saying, like, we'll keep trying, but he's gone. And I was just like, for about 3 minutes, it just wasn't registering at all. And so when it finally clicked, I just instantly started thinking about all the things that we had did for God, just instantly, and it just wasn't adding up. And it was just like, Lord, this is impossible. You can't take him. And we've done everything you told us to do. We've sown, we've labored for you. We've done all these things. This isn't making sense. So of course, my next thing was, okay, well, I guess we're about to see a miracle happen. And I instantly thought to pray. And of course, they were still working on him. My mom by that time had gotten there. And so I walked out to my mom. And I think that's when I first had my actual emotion of everything. And my mom caught me as I collapsed. And so by the time me and my mom got back there, that was when the doctors, by that time, had been working on him probably for about 30 minutes and was saying that they had done all that they could. And so when I went in, I prayed over him and, Sean's grandmother, who I think I saw on here, raised us up very strong in with healing and teaching us that, we have the ability to raise the sick raise the sick, and heal those who are dead. And so we had seen miracles. We've seen legs stretched out and all of this stuff. And so I just told God, like, I started naming off the things that we did. And I said, in the name of Jesus, rise up. And I instantly felt God's presence, and God told me
Mhm.
he's gone.
Yeah.
And from that very moment of me hearing God say that he's gone,
Wow.
I felt like there was a presence right next to me. For months, I felt like God literally stood next to me. And I believe now, in hindsight, that, sometimes when we're real with ourselves and realistic to the point of knowing how we are and how we process things, my grandmother's death was my first death as an adult, and I did not handle that well. I questioned God. I questioned my faith. I questioned why he didn't heal her. And I believed, I'm jokingly saying this, but I believe God knew, like, my girl is crazy. So let me go ahead and spend some time with her, and really speak to her on a consecutive basis. And so, I instantly felt God's presence. I instantly felt his peace. And, we had friends that, I mean, the emergency room was full of friends and family who came. I'll say one thing that I learned during that time is that you really know, I hate to say this because I feel like it's a cliche, but you really learn who your true friends are, and you really learn who you were as a friend,
Wow.
because those who you really were there for, not that it's a tit for tat or that you owe them, it's almost like it's something in them that makes them have to do for you. They have to get up. He passed at about maybe 5ish in the morning.
Hmm.
The emergency room was flooded with people. I don't even think within an hour. I mean, like, folks just got up and came. And so, the realization of, I think the hardest part of losing Sean was having to tell my children.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think I will ever forget those moments, but even in those moments of being in this little room and us telling them and explaining to these little kids that he was gone, God was there. And I think when
Wow.
you deal with hardship of any matter, if you allow yourself to, you will always sense the presence of God. He's
Jesus.
always there. There's a scripture that I've actually walked with and quoted for these 6 years, and it's Psalms 34:15. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He
Mm.
rescues those who are crushed and whose spirits are crushed." And the first time I read that, I was like, that sounds beautiful, but but I really took my time and really started reading that scripture and digesting it. And I
Mhm.
started walking it out and really realizing that he really was close to me because my heart was broken and because my spirit was crushed. And even though as a mom, I had to be strong for my kids, and um, because of the in a sense the call that I have on my life of being there for others, I felt like I had to be there for our friends and minister to our friends
Wow.
and different things like that. I believe that God really, I'll honestly say, with his right hand upheld me.
Wow.
The first night, that he passed, I could not sleep. I had a girlfriend who was, at the time, she was staying in Arizona. She stayed on the phone with me that entire night, and we just talked. But once we finally got off the phone, right before I dozed off, I heard God tell me clear as day, if you want to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to word it exactly how he told me.
Yeah.
He said, you have a choice. Basically,
Wow.
you can either let your children lose one parent through this, or you can let them lose two. The enemy is going to try and take your mind with this, not your life, but he's going to try and take your mind. And so he told me if I trusted him to walk me through the process of day to day, moment by moment, second by second, that he would get me through it. And so the first thing that God told me to do, he said, every morning that you wake up, run out of your room. Don't 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 think about anything. Just get up and go. And for about almost a month, that's what I did. I got up and I ran straight out of my room, because the realistic reality of where I was, the fact that I had lost, I mean, Sean and I were married for 13 years, but we grew up together, and we had this teenage love affair, and then we had this dramatic breakup, and oh my God, he hurt my heart. And then God brought us back together. I was 19 and he was 20 when we got married. And so, um, you build this future, and you hear the structure that God has given you and a course that God has put you on, and then it completely demolishes from under your feet with no warning, with no
Yeah.
possibility of like, hey, so something might happen tomorrow that you need to prepare yourself for. And I believe that in that moment, and even in these 6 years, I believe that that scripture with Psalms 34:15, he has been very close to me. He has kept me, and he's also caused me to grow from it and to learn from it. And like you said, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And because of that, I'm a huge advocate for reaching out to those who are widows, those who are going through similar things. I don't, and for those who are tuned in, I encourage everyone, if you know anyone who has lost a spouse, sometimes they can push you away because it's just too much, and or they're pushing you away but they really don't mean to push you away. One of the things that I am so grateful to God for is my support system. My family was my rock, and I had very close friends who were there times when I didn't want them to be there. I had a girlfriend who told me one time, like, I know you don't want me here, but I'm just gonna sit here.
Wow.
And in those moments of still quietness, I would just speak about how I felt. But don't walk away from people who have lost loved ones, or don't,
Good.
once that funeral is over, that's when the real hardship begins. And I think people, in your mind, you just automatically think, oh, I'm sure there's a flood of people that are still there. That following week after Sean's funeral, our home was pretty much empty. I had my very closest friends that were there and that, came by, and I'm grateful for that. I'm not knocking people for not coming or anything like that, but I believe that sometimes we push so much about those first few days and not realize that it's a life. We had to figure out what our family was after that, and God helped us through that. We had to figure out what traditions we were even able to sustain walking through and carrying out without him
Yeah.
being with us anymore.
That's
So I'm gonna stop because I feel like I've talked a lot.
you.
Did I miss anything?
No, this was really good. You gave a mouthful there. Number one, what I wanted to just follow up with what Monique said. Number one, the thing that resonated most was in the middle of any kind of loss. Number one, you have a choice. So if you're anyone,
Yeah, absolutely.
Monique's story, if you're listening to how her husband died suddenly, God told her she has a choice. So if there is anyone that's on the broadcast is going through any kind of loss, it doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes, and I know Monique can attest to this, sometimes because of the overwhelming emotion, the overwhelming sadness, the overwhelming grief, we feel as though we don't have a choice. We feel as though there is no way
Yeah,
to get out of this. We feel as though there is no way I can get out of this. And
yeah,
he said that you do have a choice. So I want that to resonate to you tonight, ladies, when you lay down in your bed, whatever challenges that you're facing right now, you have a choice. And yes, you can decide.
yeah,
And over time, your will placed in there will begin to transform everything that's going on the inside of you. She's a living
hmm,
witness that you have a choice to decide. Number two, she said that she could not make it through without the right community. Monique, what would you say to women that are befriended with someone that's going through any kind of grief? Because sometimes we don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. You don't know what's overwhelming to that person. You don't know how long to stick around. What advice would you give to the friends of those
yeah,
that
absolutely.
are experiencing bad any kind of grief or loss that they've experienced? What advice would you give?
I would say you're never going to feel like you're saying the right thing because there's never a right thing to say. I think when Sean passed, I heard some of the worst cliches in my life from some individuals that I knew loved me and that I knew loved Sean. But it was so disheartening, and it really caused me to kind of take a step back like, man, have I said this foolishness to people
Right,
before? Because
man.
when you're in front of someone, you really don't know what to say. So you just say what comes to mind, well, God knows, God's there, and it's like, yeah, next, I would say one of my closest friends that I am forever grateful for, LaShonda, she just stood by me. there were moments where she did not say anything. It was just she was there, and her presence was just there. I had another girlfriend, Angela. Um, she prayed for me to the point that even when she wasn't in my home, I felt like she was in my home. So I mean, it's being a friend the way I would say being a friend the way God instructs you to, stepping outside of your own comfort zone. I had some girlfriends. I had one girlfriend. I was in the restroom the day that Sean passed, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? That's the first thing I said. This was my girlfriend who I've grown up with, Devonna, and she looked me dead in my eyes and she said, "You're gonna keep living." And I was so offended by that because I was just like, who says this? My husband just died. But it was a realistic reality that I needed to hear. I have to keep living. I have too much at stake to not keep living. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be a death of a person that makes you feel like you can't keep living. It can be a death of a friendship. It can be a death of a job. It can be a death of a career. Sometimes we put so much into something, or we've put so much stock into it and so much investment in it that when it ends, we feel shipwrecked. But
Mm,
God will make beauty. He turns beauty into ashes. And I really, after walking through this, of course, you wouldn't wish this on anyone at all in the world, but I've never experienced God to the magnitude that I have. I've never seen God move through me with helping others, move through my children with encouraging them and helping them and using them to help others. It's just it's a different lifestyle, and it's a different walk that you attain. And yes, there's hardship. I think there's a part of my heart that will always have that, um, but there's still joy in the process of it. And so I think I would say with anything is just being in your God moment, whatever God tells you to do, if it's just sitting there and not saying anything.
wow.
The day before Sean's funeral, we were picking up his obituaries, and I told my girlfriend, I said, I can't do this. And she looked at me in my eyes and she said, Mo, if you don't want to go to that funeral, we ain't got to go to that funeral.
Mm,
And it was just like, you're right. I don't have to go. And I mean, of course, I ended up going, but it was just a realistic reality that it was something that I needed to hear mentally. And I think had she, and I'll say this because that friend has been, we've grown very close uh, in this 6 year process, me and LaShonda. We did not know each other before Sean passed. Sean
oh,
kept pushing and saying, y'all
that's
need to hang
good.
out. Y'all will be really good together. He kept saying that, and just time just didn't allow it, right?
Mhm.
And Shonda stepped in. I have so many friends that stepped in and just really became either, if they weren't that close to me at that time, they stood up and did things, or my friends and my immediate family, my mom and my sisters were such rocks at that time, and they were grieving. My grandmother had just
Right?
passed. My
Yeah.
mom's son-in-law, my sisters looked at Sean as a brother.
Hmm.
Sean's family, really stepped in, and I mean, like,
Yeah.
for months we didn't have to worry about food. I mean, like, we had so much help. So I think not just being there and being present, but how can you help that family? Simple
Mm,
things. I had someone just buy stocks of toilet tissue, and it was just like something that I didn't have to worry about. I'm not saying that you just have to pour and pour funds, but sometimes you do have to think outside the box of what's needed. I had people who would just come and say, what do your kids need? Sometimes you have to be Jesus's extended hands and feet. And I think
wow.
stepping outside of yourself and outside of your comfort zone to just do and not worry about if it's something crazy. I can only imagine if God told the person who gave us all that tissue, like, really, Lord, you want me to just buy this woman all this tissue? Like, what sense does that make? But it helped my household because it was something that we didn't have to think about. I didn't have to process the what I needed to do. And something else I would say is that if the person that's grieving is requesting something, even if it sounds crazy, just do it. The
Wow.
day that Sean passed, when we left the hospital, I did not want our house to be quiet because we didn't have a quiet house. There was always noise, there was always laughter. Sean was always telling jokes.
Yeah.
And so I told people to come over, and everybody's like, "Are you sure? You really? No, I want y'all to come and I want y'all to laugh. I need to hear laughter. I knew what I needed. And while some of our friends were a little bit uneasy at first, and I could see that, they started even seeing that laughter was healing even them, you know? So just really, I would say, to sum it up, to obey what God tells you to do in those situations. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything, and communicate that. When I'm around people who have lost someone, I am quick to say, I don't believe that there are words that are going to help in this situation, but I'm here. And
Wow.
if you need me to talk, I will talk. We can talk about anything you want to talk about, but I'm not going to say something that's stupid. I just don't believe that we're in a dispensation where we have too much technology, too much stuff that we can study to see that telling someone, well, it was God's will, it's not always the best thing to say. Or,
Lord.
you know, God knows best, or, you know, that's sometimes not the best thing to say. How is it that this is best and I have 4 children to raise on my own? So sometimes sometimes it's just best to be quiet, but being present. My family and my friends who were just there are moments that I literally still to this day cry out to God in gratitude for those moments, because at any given moment when I wanted to talk, there was someone there.
Okay. That's so good, Monique. Like, here are the two things that stuck out to me for those of you that are watching. And you're going to have, if you have any friends or any touch with humanity, period, you're going to have women around you that's going to go through things. The two things that stuck out
Yeah,
that said was that it is important to step outside of your comfort zone. When you know that
absolutely.
your sister, that you know that you have a friend that's going through something, comfort schedule in your day to day, because you know that step outside of your comfort zone opens up your mind to even new things they might even need, you know. So that stuck out for me, stepping out, because I'm very routine, I'm a very scheduled kind of personality. Everything that I do every day is on schedule. So stepping out of that comfort zone will probably help you, your friend, during the worst times in their life. And another thing that she said in the beginning, she said that the presence of God was there for her when she went through this time. If what it doesn't matter what you're going through, look for and expect Emmanuel. Look
Yeah,
for the presence of God. He is Emmanuel, and He says that He is with us and that He will never leave us nor
absolutely.
forsake us. When you expect it and when you look for it, you're going to find it, because it's a principle. The Bible says, seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter what you go through. The presence of God is not far from you. It is when we are in isolation and we are removed from community, is when we sink as women. Monique raved
Yeah,
on about the support of women, and it is really important that we really need each other. And that's the
yeah,
reason, Monique, why I do what I do, because the trick
mm,
enemy is to divide us, number one, through our differences, and cause us
absolutely.
to compare and cause our differences to make us least attractive, when our differences will actually should build value to us and should build diversity
Hmm.
to us. And she said that she couldn't have gotten through this without the right community. So Monique, if there's one piece of advice that you can give to women that has gone through some kind of devastation, if you can reiterate it, and then after that, I want to talk about really briefly. I want you to talk about if there is any services or anything that you offer, anything that you're working on, or
Hmm.
have in the future, any projects or anything you're working on. You can actually talk about that as well. So
Okay.
how would you close this Facebook Live? What advice would you give?
I would say that even in our worst moments, that God is still there, and that even though we may not understand, what I've learned through losing my husband, especially losing Sean, was that one, we have to take care of ourselves. Our health is very important. And sometimes as Christians, we walk around with this mentality of, you know, oh, God got me, you know, or not necessarily God got me, but, you know, God is a healer. I don't have to really take my health seriously, or really process or do things that I need to do in order to maintain my health. our health is a very serious issue. And while
Yeah.
God does give us the ability to pray over ourselves, and we can, speak a thing and it be, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that what we put in either is a benefit to our body or a detriment to our body. So I'll say that first, but I'll also say that even in our worst moments, it may not be that it was God's will, but God will make glory from it. We have to allow Him to make that glory from it, um, and allow Him to be our peace. Even in the craziness, the first year of Sean passing, of course, there's a ton of firsts, right? His birthday, the kids' birthdays, our anniversaries, and really allowing yourself to grieve healthy, I think is the most important thing in reference to grieving in anything, whether it's a death, a divorce, a friendship ending. Grieve properly. Allow yourself to go through the steps of grief and actually express how you feel, communicate with someone, and really have someone there that you can trust, that will build you up, that will, encourage you, but also that can be a listening ear as you process through those thoughts. But more importantly than having that person, you should always be communicating to God. I always express to God how I'm
Mm,
feeling. If
mm,
I'm, times when I was really missing Sean, I grew up in church. So I grew up learning who God was in my life. And so I have a very real conversations with God. And so, days when I was really missing him, whether it was just as my husband or whether it's sexually, it was like, so God, yeah,
that's
we
real.
got some
Yeah.
issues we got to talk through.
Yeah.
But you can't forsake one the communication with God, but you also can't veer off. A lot of times as women, especially if we're busy, we do so much stuff. We have our kids, we have school, we have work, we have all these different hats that we wear, and our hats are cute, our makeup is banging, our outfits are going on, but we never find that balance to say, whoa, let me slow down and actually process where I am right now, and really be real with ourselves and our feelings of where we are right now. So I think that I would say out of everything, um, to always communicate, always go through the grieving process the proper way, never replace something. Never replace what you've missed with something that's temporal. And what I mean by that is a lot of times, especially as women, because we are nurturers and because we
Wow.
can feel voids, we'll tend to say, well, because this is gone, let me grab this. And even if it's a good thing, it may not be a God thing. So instead of being so busy, so we're not focused on the issue, we never address it. Sometimes you have to take that step back and say, no, I'm going to address this. I'm not going to run away from it. I'm not going to put it on the shelf so that years later or months from now, it's built up and it's larger than life and it's destructive, or it's causing things to happen on my lineage, because what we go through actually dictates things according to our lineage as well. How will my children be affected by this? How will my family be affected by how my actions are in this moment? So never walk away and feel like I can address this later. Address it now. Deal with it now. Don't try to replace it with something else or become so busy that you
Yeah.
can't focus on the now of where you're at, and
Mm,
allow God to take you through it. God will be your peace. He will be your comfort, and I really believe that He will give you the strength and the encouragement. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry, my daughter is being a little prompter over here. He will give you the strength and the encouragement to ride that storm, whether
Mm,
it's a good day or a bad day, you'll ride that storm, but he'll give you the peace. And as women, I'm going to say this and then I'll move on. I'm sorry, Kim. As women, we're very emotional, right? And learning how to control those emotions.
good.
Colossians 3:15 says, and let the peace, soul harmony, which comes from Christ,
Yeah.
rule, act as an umpire continually in your hearts,
Yes.
deciding and settling with finality all questions that arise in your minds. In that peaceful state, to which, as members of Christ, one body, you were also called to live, and be thankful, appreciative, giving praise to God always. And to me, that scripture is basically saying, don't allow your emotions to control your situation. Allow God to control it. And a lot
Yeah.
of times as women, we allow our emotions to just, oh, it's a bad day.
Yeah.
Everything goes.
Yeah.
all haywire. And the Bible clearly tells us this. Let Christ rule. Let him be your umpire.
Mm.
Allow him to control that emotion. I grew up being taught that our emotions are a roller coaster as women. Sometimes like Great America, the shockwave, you go up, and when you come down, your head, you got a headache and everything. And I learned at a very early stage in my marriage, I couldn't be that person. I
Ugh.
had to veer away from allowing my emotions to control me, and I began to control my emotions. And in this scripture, I believe is so important for women. As women, we Proverbs 31 women all day, every
No, we're
day.
not.
But sometimes, I mean, in reference to us always quoting it,
Right.
but sometimes we need to be this Colossians 3:15 and saying, God, be the umpire of my emotions. Don't allow me to walk out this day
Yeah.
by my emotions, but you control my emotions. You allow me to realize when I'm allowing my emotions to control me and steer me in the way that I need to be steered.
I'm taking it in. Seriously. Yes.
Yeah, so in reference to things that I'm doing, it's so funny that you say that. Um,
You got
so for
going.
2018, I have like, huh?
I said, what you got going on?
Well, I have like a whole bunch of stuff that God really started dealing with me about at the end of 2017 and really at the beginning of 2018. So this will be the year, and it's like, oh my God, am I saying this to however many people are on here?
Yeah.
I'm writing a book this year. I'm writing and publishing a book this year. Yay, I
Let's
know.
promote it.
So that's one exciting thing. Something else that I do on a regular at my church, and I'll say this too, being connected with a church that actually has a heart and loves the people of God. My church stepped in so much for me and my family in so many areas. My pastor, which was something he did not have to do, he came with me and helped me through the process of the funeral and I mean, like, there were points where he was like, now let me explain to you, they're gonna tell you this, but you
Mm-hmm.
really don't have to do this. And it really just helped me. I will forever be grateful for Christian Life Center. Christian Life Center is the bomb.com in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, I do a lot of stuff with our church, but one of the things that I'm really passionate about, I have a strong heart for women. Very strong heart for women. I've had it for a very long time. So I've started at the probably middle of last year. I started doing some mentoring, and I've been mentoring a couple awesome women. I've had the privilege, God has placed them in my life to mentor them in certain areas, but I'm picking that up in reference to life coaching as well. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm not sure about everything else, but
Okay.
the book is probably the biggest thing, and just really going forth in everything that God has for me. I think my intent for 2018 is to really do everything that God has told me to do, and not just do it because he told me to do it, but to do it with purpose and to do it with intention.
Wow. That is
And I'll say
amazing.
the last thing, sorry. The
Yes.
last thing
Love it.
of 2018 that I plan to do is save souls. I've made a goal of a certain amount of souls that I have presented to God that I desire to save a month, because I feel like, and I
Wow.
think that's what our call is. That's what our commission is. I can pour into people who already have Jesus all day, and that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, if I'm not saving souls and I'm not being like he said, go out and make disciples of men. He didn't just say, build up the people that already know me. The
Yeah.
strategy of why Jesus came back to this earth was to win souls. And so that's one of the biggest, I think, outside of writing a book, outside of doing anything else, I'm excited to get back on the real purpose of what we're supposed to do on the earth.
Wow. That is so amazing, Monique, how 6 years from now, she's still excited about who she is. She's excited about what God has called her to be. And she did not victimize herself through this opportunity to do so. And she wants to bring in souls. I think that I know Sean would be proud of you. God is proud of you.
Thank
And
you.
you are a bona fide, you are a qualified life coach to walk people through. different situations in their life. And I want to thank you so much for just sharing your story. This was literally a leap out of fate to just ask you to share it, because I didn't know when would be the most insensitive time. But I want to
Yeah.
thank you for pouring out your life to others. I'm sure that everyone on here was blessed by your story. I'm sure that they see their story in the middle of your story. That's the reason why we share, and that's the reason why we overcome. Thank you again, Monique. You guys send Monique an encouraging message tonight. God is doing some amazing things for her, and I'm excited that I get to watch it now. I get to
Amen. Amen.
come by.
My
Did you have?
daughter sent a note saying that there were questions on here.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Do you do questions or?
Let me look at them really quickly. Let's see. Tell is that Angie? Tell her to read one of them, a couple of them out for us.
She walked away.
She
Let
walked
me
away.
see.
Oh, you know what? I see them. Okay. Let's see.
Okay.
So guys, if you have any questions, if you can retype it, I'm going through. Okay, here it is. Question: what would you suggest is helpful in the process for a widow who has children, whose children have lost their father? So that was the first one. What would you
Okay,
suggest
that's
is
a
helpful
really good
in the
question.
process? Yeah. What would you suggest
Um,
helpful in the process for children that have lost their father?
I would say grief counseling is the biggest thing. I know in the olden days that wasn't a big thing in church to do counseling, but I
Yep.
think grief counseling is a very huge important thing so the children are able to really process how they feel. For my children, I have four amazing kids. I really
Yeah.
do. And they really felt like they had to be strong for me. Um, and that was so heartbreaking for me because while it was a blessing that they, felt that way, it also caused them to not really process how they actually needed to grieve. So making sure that your children go through the grieving process, always checking in, talking with them. One thing I will say, and I'm happy this question came up because I was hoping that I could bring up like something for you not to do. I got to a point during my grieving process where I did not want to face what we were dealing with, what we were going through, and I began just living the motions. So
Right.
I would come home, make sure the kids were okay, but then I would leave because it was
Mm,
just like I just did not want to be there. I didn't want to deal with that reality. And that was during the time where it was like, okay, who are you? I had been Sean's wife for 13 years and
Jesus.
we did everything together. We rode the train in the mornings together. We rode the train. I mean, everything except for use the bathroom was what
Jesus.
Sean and Monique did together.
Wow.
Everything. So trying to figure out who I was very hard. It was very discouraging at a point, and I did not feel like I was enough for my children because at that time I
Mm,
felt like I had to be mom and dad. And that's so not true. If you're the remaining spouse and you're the mother, be the mother. There's no way
mm,
that you can be both. And I started wearing myself out mentally and physically trying to I was more of the disciplinarian and
okay.
Sean would like take the kids in the room, hit the dang on bed with a belt, acting like he whooping them. Okay. So Sean was not, my kids respected him, and if he was serious, the kids knew. But he was a teddy bear. He loved his children. He really loved his children. And so trying to find that middle part of being mom and dad. So it was like, well, I'm not going to discipline them because Sean wouldn't have disciplined them for this. And that's not fair to them. Really allowing God to teach you and instruct you on wisdom on how to handle this new family structure, I would say is very key. And also not running from what you're in. You just can't. There are moments now that I realize, and I've apologized to my children, and I've asked them for their forgiveness, but I honestly was running away because I did not want to face. I didn't want to face being a failure to them, and that's what I felt like I was being because I could not provide the mother answer and the father answer for them. I could not be both. So I would say the first thing is making sure that they're mentally okay, grieving properly, because as children, sometimes they bottle up. They may feel like they can't express to you because they already know that you've lost, and they feel like your loss is greater than theirs, which is not the case. So really making sure that they're at a place of communicating, but also where you're at a place to be there for them. And that takes community. My mom and my sisters, even during that time when I was doing that, my mother and my sisters were there. My mother and my sisters have been, I just believe that there's a place in heaven that has been built for them, because they have been there, and they've been the mother, they've been the aunt, they've been the friend, they've been everything in a godly family structure that they should be. So I'm forever eternally grateful for that. But making sure that you have people there that can help you, and that you can communicate with them to say, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm not feeling like I'm enough today. And letting those people in to take up the slack, or to just be there. So yeah, that would be my answer for that.
That is awesome. And then there was one other question, which I think you covered. Someone had said, tell everyone how long you guys were married to your deceased husband.
Yeah, we were married 13 years. I got married at 19, so I felt like I had been married my entire life. Because while I got married at 19, Sean and I like did the whole like, I think we started like going together when we were like 11-ish or
Don't look
12-ish. Yeah, like we church kids, so yeah, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so we had like this massive Disney story breakup when we were like 14 or 15, and like we were never talking to each other again. And we ended up like becoming best friends. Actually, our relationship mended just as friends. I had gotten saved because I actually had gotten pregnant, and he ended up getting saved, and we actually just was like, hey, we need to figure out some friends in the church that are actually living for Jesus. And we actually became best friends, and from that, our relationship took off.
Wow, this is amazing. So Monique, give them what's your Facebook profile name again? Go ahead and follow Monique and her story and
Uh,
her.
I think for everything, I'm pulling it up now. That's why my eyes are down. For everything, it's typically Monique D. Thomas.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, aren't I like on here? Can I like,
Yeah.
okay, Facebook is Monique Thomas. Instagram is Monique D. Thomas.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much it, right? Pinterest is Monique D. Thomas. I think for Snapchat, it's like Mo Thomas or something like that.
Awesome. So thank you so much again, Monique, for sharing your story, guys.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, it was, I took notes. I can't wait to get off the broadcast to write them down. I've learned something too, and I think that that's the beauty of it. Like, this
Yeah.
community. Thank you so much, Todd, for putting her.
I know, right? I was just going to say, Ty, I love you, Ty. Thank you.
She's awesome. Thanks for putting her her social media handle on there. For the next month, I'm going to be highlighting stories and different things that women have overcome and has walked through, in hopes that it will encourage you, that it will challenge you, and that it will fix your perspective. Because as we heard from Monique, perspective is everything, and we do have
Yeah.
So again,
Amen.
thank you so much. I hope you guys have an amazing evening. If you want to follow Girlfriends, feel free to follow my website at www.mygirlfriends.org. Have a good evening, and don't forget to share the broadcast.
Oh, thank you again, Kim.
You're welcome. I'll
Love you,
talk to
honey.
you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.